Stay connected with the world through WION. Like the page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter for new alerts. Instagram for videos and images. And the website for the latest news, views and analysis. WIONews.com. World is one.
Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post. I am your host, Ghadi Francis, and this is our weekly show where we bring you all the latest updates, stories and news from one of the world's most volatile regions, which I call my home. Today, first we discuss Iran visiting Syria. It is the first visit of such to Syria since the civil war started. Now, Raisi congratulated Assad for his victory despite facing a barrage of sanctions. What does this visit by a top ally to Syria mean, especially as the country is shifting its position? We tell you more.
It is an ally in tough times that hopes to bolster its sway as the region opens up to an old-time foe. This week, Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi visited Syria for a 2-day trip. The visit, the first by an Iranian president in 13 years, is being hailed as a strategic victory in Tehran. The last Iranian president to visit Syria was President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in 2010. No Iranian leader has visited Damascus since the civil war that engulfed the country over a decade ago. Tehran was the only player in West Asia that stood by Syria at a time when the entire region alienated the Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad, over claims of war crimes and a deadly crackdown on protesters. The conflict has since killed nearly 500,000 people and displaced half of Syria's pre-war population of 23 million. During the conflict, Tehran sent militia to help defeat Assad's opponents. Its backing of Assad was crucial in his battle against the rebels. With support from Russia and Iran, the Syrian president regained control of most of the country, with the remnants of the armed opposition controlling enclaves in northwest Syria.
When the war against Syria started 12 years ago, Iran did not hesitate to stand alongside Syria despite the threats and enticements. Iran unreservedly offered all political and economic support and even gave blood, which is the most valuable thing a person can provide to their fellow human.
On the 2-day trip, Raisi and Assad held talks and signed a series of long-term cooperation agreements on oil and other sectors to further economic ties between the two allies.
The memorandums of understanding signed and the numerous projects discussed will greatly advance relations through developing mechanisms to increase trade exchange and investments between the two countries. In addition, they will mitigate the impacts of sanctions, taking advantage of changes in the global economic map and the gradual transition of balance to the east.
The deal is important also for Syria, whose economy has hit an all-time low over the past decade. There is spiraling inflation, a currency plunge, and rampant power cuts. Moreover, Western sanctions are slowing the economy down. Tehran-based analysts say strengthening ties between Iran and Syria, backed by Russia and China, will end the Western dominance in the region.
Americans and Europeans still insist on their sanctions on Syria, and they have stressed that they would not allow any of those countries to invest anything in the government-held areas in Syria. Iran, Russia, China, as well as some other Arab League members, they are going to take part in the reconstruction. That means a big no to the United States policy that would, I believe, end up in another failure for the U.S. sanctions policy.
After a decade, the group of Gulf nations that once supported the opposition are now considering bringing Syria back into the realm. Earlier on Monday, foreign ministers of Gulf nations gathered in Jordan to discuss an end to the Syrian conflict and bring back Damascus into the regional fold.
Everything that is related to the Syrian crisis will be dealt with, but in a process that will surely be long. Today is the beginning, the process continues, and a lot of work is needed. There must be steps on the ground that lead to an improvement in the reality in which Syria and the Syrians live. There must be steps that take us to solve this problem and proceed towards a comprehensive solution for it.
The outreach to Damascus picked up pace after the February earthquake and the China-brokered re-establishment of ties between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And Riyadh, the regional heavyweight that once backed Syrian rebel groups, has been leading the rapprochement.
From foreign policy to heartwarming stories, we have a lot lined up for you in this edition of the West Asia Post. But first, let's take a quick look at what's making the headlines across West Asia.
Israel says it hopes that Saudi Arabia will admit direct flights for Muslim citizens who want to make the Hajj pilgrimage next month. It says that if approved, it would mark an important step towards normalizing relations. The IMF releases the 2023 outlook for West Asia. It says economies in the region will slow down as persistently high inflation and rising interest rates bite into their post-pandemic gains. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan attacks the country's LGBTQ population ahead of the vote. Erdogan says he is against the community in a bid to woo conservative voters.
Emperyalistlerin suyuna gitmeyi değil.
Iran seizes another US oil tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. The US Navy releases footage showing the tanker being surrounded by Tehran's guard vessels. US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy visits Israel and meets with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's the first House Speaker to address the Knesset in 25 years and calls for consensus on the judicial reform row.
Palestinian activist Khudr Adnan, 45-year-old man, died in an Israeli jail after 3 months of hunger strike protesting his detention. Now this has sparked a new wave of tensions between Palestinians and Israelis. Our next report tells you more.
A hunger strike, death, protests, rocket strikes and retaliations. That's the latest flare-up between Israel and Palestine. Rockets rained down on southern Israel after a prominent Palestinian prisoner, Ghadi Adnan, died in Israeli custody. He was on a hunger strike for 87 days. Israel said that the 45-year-old was found unconscious in his cell and taken to a hospital where he was declared dead. More than 100 rockets were fired from the blockaded Gaza Strip at Israel. A southern Israeli town hit by rocket strikes narrated the ordeal.
We didn't hear the sirens, we heard explosions, and then the sirens. On the way, we got nervous. My son ducked, and I embraced him to protect him. During this time, I didn't know where to go.
וזהו, ואני התחלתי לרוץ פה, לצרוח, פשוט לצרוח.
I saw that it fell here. I saw how it fell. First the rocket came, then we heard sirens. You don't even have time to run to the fortified room.
Anger is rising on the other side too. Israeli soldiers fire rubber bullets towards Palestinian stone throwers during clashes in DCO checkpoint near West Bank's Ramallah. Palestinians also came out on the streets raising slogans while marching in the streets of Ramallah.
We must be loyal to the path and direction of Qadi Adnan. We are continuing on his path of struggle that he built.
The Palestinian Prime Minister has described Qadi Adnan's death as a deliberate assassination.
We consider this a deliberate assassination by rejecting his request for his release, neglecting him medically and keeping him in his cell despite the seriousness of his health condition.
The Israeli army carried out airstrikes. The raids targeted several sites, including one belonging to Hamas, the group that controls the territory. Tuesday's barrage of rocket attacks came almost a month after the last cross-border exchanges of fire between Israel and Gaza. Which followed an Israeli police raid in the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. A joint statement by factions in Gaza, including Hamas and Islamic Jihad, said that the rocket fire was an initial response to Adnan's death. For now, the Palestinian group Islamic Jihad has announced a truce. But the question is, how long will the truce last?
It is election season in Turkey, and both the incumbent government and the opposition are giving it their all to convince voters to choose their ballot. Now claims and allegations are floating all around. One of these is hinting to Washington's interference in the Turkish polls. Listen in.
Turkey is bracing for its most crucial election in decades. The crescendo is rising, a country on the edge, voters divided. The big question is, who would lead Turkey? President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his opponents are holding massive rallies. The stage is set for a bruising electoral battle. Standing in front of thousands of flag-waving supporters, Erdogan shows no sign of an illness that sidelined him for 3 days this week. The 69-year-old urged voters to eliminate his opponents in the election.
Hundreds of thousands are coming, hundreds of thousands marching to the ballot box, giving the good news to come on May 14th. Are we ready for May 14th? Are we ready to come out with a crushing victory?
Sandıkları o gümbür gümbür patlatmaya var mıyız?
Turkish opposition leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu is the main challenger to Erdogan. Speaking at the event in the western province of Tekirdağ, the center-left CHP leader vows to fix the economy, something which has a deep resonance with the Turkish people.
The economy is in a position of complete disaster. We are aware of that. We are also aware of what kind of economy we will inherit. But Turkey has to break out of this grip. Turkey needs to rise again, and Turkey has to change.
Opinion polls suggest that Kılıçdaroğlu has reason to be optimistic. One survey showed only 20% of Turks in the 18 to 25 age bracket are ready to vote for Erdogan and his Islamic-rooted party in the presidential and parliamentary polls.
Şunu söyleyeyim, ben 18 yaşında bir genç olarak
As an 18-year-old, I'm very tired of waking up to politics every day in this country. When President Erdogan is gone, and I hope this will be the case, we will start to prioritize our academic development and social life over politics.
Biz her gün dolar kurunu takip etmek yerine
For 21 years, the current government has not given any rights to workers, has not solved any problems of the workers.
As citizens gear up to choose their next leader, Turkey's interior minister made a damning claim. He says that the West, and particularly the US, is using the elections to stage a political coup. So is the coup claim real? Or is this the Turkish government's last bid to stay in power? Erdogan has been in the top seat for more than 20 years. On May 14th, his political fate will be decided. If he loses the election, the Turkish political landscape will change dramatically. Erdogan is facing the toughest electoral test in his 20 years in office as Prime Minister and President, with opinion surveys showing a slight lead for his main challenger, Kılıçdaroğlu. The upcoming vote is too close to call and might be heading to a runoff on May 28th. The stage is set for a bruising electoral battle.
sevgiyle saygıyla selamlıyor sevgili Çanakkale'liler.
Lebanon has been marred by political and economic crisis. Millions of people here have been impacted by this. Now a duo is finding humor in the middle of the times of despair to survive the hardships. We tell you more.
A computer screen and witty humor is all it took for this Lebanese duo to get famous. They record videos of themselves, make fun of the reality as Lebanon deals with multiple crises.
To be able to bear with what is happening in Lebanon, we are doing what we do. Coffee break. We are just making fun of the situation. At the end of the day, we can't let it out, but in this way.
We couldn't give up much. We tried to leave. It didn't work out. So we didn't have any other resort than mocking what we were doing. This is our coping mechanism.
How will you transfer the money?
We prefer not bank transfer.
Yes.
لا مش مبادئ يعني بس ما في هذا السيستم بقى.
The duo works in the advertising industry and create content for a living. They started their page Coffee Break 8 years ago. And their focus was not sarcasm, but short videos focusing on cultural events in the West Asian country. Things changed gradually. So did the theme of their content. Lebanon is currently staring at a political stalemate. 6 months have passed and Lebanon has no leader yet, while the economic woes continue to worsen.
The biggest reason for doing what we do in our little hopeful minds, we hope to do a shift in the mindset of the people that we feel are holding the country back. Whether we are talking about politics or something, any topic, it is to plant this change in perspective. Maybe someone changes something. Maybe someone considers changing or seeing the world from a different perspective.
But we are not shocked if this doesn't happen.
Yeah, we are continuing.
Then again, excuse me, but who are we?
The comic duo has more than 50,000 followers on Instagram. Their bio reads, "Sarcasm is our means of survival." And as opposed to the influencers now, they do not have a set number of videos they upload in a week. They churn out content as and when it speaks to them.
The potential is all here.
There is a new spot for Jordanian pet parents. Dogtopia takes care of their furry friends as they carry on with their days. Here's how this place is making their lives much easier. Take a look.
Imagine having a pet, but not being able to provide them with love and dedication they need. Unable to speak and express, pets are like children who need constant attention. And a lack of which, even though by circumstances, causes a big worry to their parents. This 17-year-old is one such dog parent. Labib Hajra has always felt frustrated that he could not spend as much time with his dog as he would have liked. And then one day, he came across a solution. When Hajra learnt about Dogtopia, it was like all his worries disappeared into thin air.
I send the dog to daycare because they look after it. They help us look after the dog. We can't spend all day with the dog. I'm usually at school during the day, and when I return, I don't have enough time for it because I have to study. They look after it and they entertain it.
Labib's morning routine is simple. He takes the dog to a bus stop, where they board a bus surrounded by other pets and their parents. They all get down at the daycare in Amman, where approximately 25 dogs spend their days. They play, enjoy their meals, and even get proper training.
When the owner of the dog is working, he does not want to abandon his dog alone at home because it will get bored. Some people say that they are around at home, but they still want to send their dogs to get entertained, because when the dog gets bored, it affects its psychological side. It stops becoming active and stops playing with its friends. There is a need to find a space for them to express their energy positively with other dogs.
This paw care center was founded in 2020. It offers a range of services from entertainment to grooming and even teaching them some skills, all to ensure the furry friends are well taken care of.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. Hopefully, I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, bringing you always the most recent updates, stories, and news from one of the world's most volatile regions. Until then, you stay safe. I am Ghadi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon, and you're watching WION World is One.
As King Charles III gets officially crowned, WION goes to London to cover the coronation. A week-long coverage from the City of Dreams. A glorious spectacle of pageantry and grandeur. 7 days, 2,000 guests. Multiple events. Multiple controversies. From street parties to Not My King protests. From themed concert to the royal family drama.
Watch the most comprehensive coverage only on WION with me, Molly Gandhi. It's a tradition as old as the British Empire. A ceremony that we haven't seen in the last 70 years. A day that promises to be one of the grandest in British history. Witness the coronation of King Charles III with me, Molly Gambhir, all the way from London. For the next 7 days, we will take you behind the scenes to help you understand what it takes to crown the British king. We'll also show you what to expect from the event, the spectacular arrangements, the spirited dress rehearsals, the figures to watch out for, and of course, the controversies surrounding the event. Watch the most comprehensive coverage in the run-up to the coronation ceremony all through this week with me, Molly Gambhir, only on WION World is One.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground? At Gravitas, we don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it does not suit their propaganda, or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called